Well, hello. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Unalienable Right. We're going to be here tonight without Cordie Williams. He's dealing with some stuff. All good in the hood right now. But we do have, let me have my phone. Is my phone over there? Well, we do have a cool slate of topics to talk about today. So I'm going to be taking and rocking it solo. It's Captain Deplorable time. And we're going to be here talking solo about a couple of things. I got the ticker rolling in the bottom there. And you're going to see it. You're going to see it. We're going to see a couple of interesting stories today. Obviously, you know that the debates were on last night. You had Kathy Hochul, the unelected empress, witch governor of New York. Governor Headlights. You saw the picture? There's a picture of her that went around where Kathy Hochul was maybe wearing a red shirt. Was it a red shirt? It was a red dress. And she may be a little cold. Or she was robbing a bank. Put the money in the bag. So we had that. That was a debate last night between the great Lee Zeldin and the not-so-great Kathy Hochul as the polls continue to tighten in the New York gubernatorial race. That's right. The polls continue to tighten in the New York gubernatorial race. I can't believe I'm saying it. I still can't believe I'm saying it. The polls continue to tighten in the New York gubernatorial race. It's a single-point race right now, according to many polls. There was one ridiculous Democrat pollster that came out and found a 15-point margin. You know what they did? They just basically probably polled their friends and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And we're gonna vote for Hochul. Yeah, we're gonna. I bet you half of their friends are probably lying to them because if there's anything a Democrat does well, it's lie, right? If there's anything a Democrat does extremely well and efficiently, it's lie, and not just to the people, but to each other. They lie to each other. They are habitual liars, professional gaslighters. Gotta get the water here. The pipes are a little sore today. Yesterday was fun. We had a debate watch party at LMHQ. I like to call it Loud Majority Headquarters here in New York, and we had a packed house down in our building with a bunch of awesome patriots who were sitting there watching Lee Zeldin mop the floor with Kathy Hochul. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I talked about that twice today, once on the Loud Majority morning show. We will not comply, rumble.com/loudmajorityus. I talked about it also on LFA TV, rumble.com/LFA TV. Both of those streams are also on the great, as you can see it here, social media platform known as Getter, which is experiencing growth while the rest of the market continues to consolidate. And year-over-year users on other social media platforms have declined. Getter social media users have increased. They have increased, and they are not just focused here in the United States. As a matter of fact, Jason Miller, the CEO of Getter, was on a live stream today, and he had mentioned that 51% of Getter's users are from the United States, 49% of Getter's users are from around the rest of the world. So that's pretty cool, knowing that their vision, which is a play on words, obviously, because Getter Visions is a great tool to be able to put out short-form videos like a TikTok or an Instagram reel, but doing it on Getter where we have free speech. And that's why I wear the hat. I absolutely love what those guys and gals are doing over there, over in Getter. Jason Miller, Kaylin Dorr, the rest of that, Bobby Levy, Gavin Wax, those folks over there doing a great job on Getter. Just giving us a place to go where we can be safe, where we can continue to fulfill, our roles in the conservative media space and continue to pursue perhaps the American dream. So we love Getter, the social media platform. We love Rumble as well. As you know, Dan Bongino, an investor in that platform, and we have Rumble going right now. The Cool Kids table right here over on rumble.com/Shawn Farash. As we're not on any of my other platforms. And if the stream is freezing, I do apologize. As you know, we have the world's least reliable internet provider here at home. It is Optimum, and I call them Droptimum because all they do is have unreliable, spotty, intermittent, and just downright just awful internet service. So hopefully when that comes back, we'll be okay. But a couple of stories to talk about tonight when it comes to these debates last night. And the title of the show, obviously, It's election day, not election season. And the reason why we say it's election day, not election season, not election month, is because of what we saw last night in the Pennsylvania gubernatorial debate. Now, you have to understand, in Pennsylvania, the great state of Pennsylvania, you look at it. I did very well there the first time, and I did very well there the second time, except when they played games with it, we didn't do so well. But we did very well there the first time, and we did very well there the second time. The great state of Pennsylvania, right? So think about this. You had early voting already taking place in Pennsylvania. You've got absentee ballots already taking place in Pennsylvania. You've had that in New York as well. And we just had a debate last night. And here in New York, who may have cast a vote and then watched that debate and said, oh, my goodness, I think I cast a vote for the wrong candidate. It's very possible that something like that may have happened. It's very possible that something like that may have occurred. That would be very unfortunate for anybody who may have cast a vote or ordered an absentee ballot and sent it back in and realized, oh, my goodness, I watched this debate. Kathy Hochul thinks that locking up criminals is not important. Those are her words, not mine. You watch John Fetterman last night. And look, I'm not here to pick on somebody who suffered a stroke. I'm not here to pick on somebody with a disability. I'm not here to talk about anybody who, all right, he's got shortcomings with his health and his mental processing ability, his auditory processing and whatever. I'm not here to do that. That's not what I'm going to do. I will laugh because there are things that, look, the guy before the stroke was a loser, idiot, socialist, bad man, in my opinion, but I'm not here to demean the guy because of his stroke. I will laugh at the fact that he is the man that the Democrats put up. They could have gone with Connor Lamb in Pennsylvania. They could have gone with Connor Lamb. They didn't. Instead, they chose this guy, John Fetterman. Why on earth would they choose this guy, John Fetterman? Well, John Fetterman, they chose him before the stroke. John Fetterman, they felt like he could be controlled. John Fetterman, they think he can be managed. They think he can be someone that they can manipulate because he's weak, because he's always been stupid. Now, he may not have always put his stupidity on display the way he did last night. He was able to hide it a little better. But you had the Fetterman campaign even put out a memo. I talked about this on LFA TV, rumble.com/LFA TV. I talked about this, when we did this on our show. This memo that came out, the Loud Majority Show, every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on LFA TV, here on Getter as well. And I see you there. I'm Debbie24. We saw her earlier today at the press conference. Said I do look very good in my Getter hat. But I will tell you this, Fetterman last night, they put out a memo to the media, their friends in the media. They put out a memo to the media saying, oh, well, here's what you can expect from John Fetterman. He's going to miss some words. This is their memo. He's going to mush words together. This was the wording of their memo. You would think, maybe a guy with a medical condition maybe gets a doctor to write their memo for them. Mushing words together. And then sure enough, when John Fetterman takes the stage last night, that's what he opens with. Yes, I know I might miss some words. I might pause. I might mush some words together. He told everyone good night when he signed on. That's weird. Hi, good night, everybody. I understand what he was trying to say. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Good evening is what he was probably trying to say. And the word evening escaped him, and he used a synonym night. I get it. I understand. Give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. That's the only time it'll happen. But here's what we have, right? John Fetterman yesterday coming out on the stage. This is what you watched last night in Pennsylvania. What you watched last night in Pennsylvania is the reason why early voting should not be a thing. There should not be votes cast before any debates. Period. End of story. Now, I believe that's a reasonable stance. I don't mind the early voting process, although I would rather everything take place on Election Day. I don't mind the absentee process if the reason is good enough, not COVID, not because I'm too lazy to leave the house. Maybe you're out of town for the election. Maybe you're going on vacation. You're in the military. You've got a family engagement. You've got something that's been planned that you're not going to be home on November 8th. So you request an absentee ballot and you vote by mail. That's always been a thing. It's now the reliance of people to vote by mail because they're lazy. It's the same way people like to use abortion as a form of birth control. Because they're lazy. Because they don't want to be accountable for their actions. If you're too lazy to wake up on Election Day on November 8th, or on any vote, whether it's a school board vote, whether it's your dog catcher vote, whether it's your local county elections, whether it's your presidential election, whether it's your governor, your senator, your representatives, your primaries, if you're too lazy to get up and vote that morning, that's your problem. I'm a firm believer, and I want you to pay attention to this. I am a firm believer that voting, the process, should not and does not have to be easy because there are lazy people who don't want to go the same distance and put in the same effort as the not lazy people. Voting doesn't have to be easy. We should all have access to it. There should all be a method for us to do it, and currently that exists. They're called polling places, and it's called Election Day. In special circumstance, you want to tell me you want to do early voting 3 days before an election? All right, that's not so bad. There are states that have been voting before these debates, including Pennsylvania. There are people who voted for that guy on stage last night, John Fetterman, already watched that last night and were probably horrified at the decision they made. They probably have PTSD from walking into the voter booth. Oh, my God, how could I have filled in a ballot for this guy? Where did I go wrong? I got a story later about from townhall.com. How do you successfully lie to 300 million people? We'll get to that. Mainstream media playbook sounds like. But yesterday's debate performance, John Fetterman, and I'm going to even go this far. I haven't even gone this far yet when comparing Hochul to Fetterman. You know, Fetterman had a stroke. Fetterman, we know, he documented it. He put out a memo. He tried to manage expectations, the campaign did, where they said, you know, oh, don't be surprised if he mushes words together, if he misses a few words, if there's delays and pauses. What was Kathy Hochul's excuse? Because in my opinion, last night, now you put two of them side by side, you're going to go, wow, Fetterman was way, 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 way worse. Yes, but I want to grade this on a curve. Kathy Hochul did not suffer a stroke. John Fetterman did suffer a stroke. Kathy Hochul, arguably, in my opinion, fell short of expectations more so than John Fetterman did because Hochul's been the governor of this state for 14, 15 months. She had the time to prepare. She had the time to decide how she was going to run her campaign. She came onto that debate stage last night and didn't say, she said Trump's name more than she said Lee Zeldin's name. She focused on Donald Trump more than she focused on her opponent, Lee Zeldin. Look, I love Donald Trump to death, obviously, for multiple reasons. One, by far the greatest president that I've ever lived through. I wasn't alive for Reagan, but the best president that I've ever lived through, hands down. Hands down. Does he have his flaws? Is he a little silly with some of the things he says? Sure, so am I. So are all of us. You going to tell me you haven't said something in your life you don't regret saying? Maybe you haven't said something in your life you think maybe if you're in the public figure space sort of thing that the media is not going to hit you on? It's all happened. It's happened to every one of us. Nobody's perfect, and I'm not expecting perfection when I vote for the president of the United States because expecting someone to be perfect, a human being, all of us who are inherently imperfect, means you're only setting yourself up for failure, right? I love Donald Trump to death, number one, because he's the greatest president that I've ever seen. Number two, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I love the content, okay, big guy? I want you to get out there, do some more rallies, and I would like to see more truths and more tweets, okay? I would like to see that. There's your second reason, as you know, because it's a source of fun for me. I like it. It's fun. I have a good time with it, and I'm glad everybody enjoys that as well. But Kathy Hochul couldn't, she's not running against Donald Trump. He doesn't matter in this state right now. And that's why when Lee Zeldin was asked, do you want Donald Trump to run for president in 2024? He said, I'm not thinking about it. I'm thinking about winning this election. Good answer. The same answer that Ron DeSantis gave Leatherface Charlie Crist. Okay, the same answer that he gave Charlie Crist when Charlie Crist said, are you committing to 4 years for Florida? And Uncle Ron just sat there. Is it my time yet? Is it my time? You talk about Biden in 2024. The only worn-out donkey that I want to take out to pasture is Charlie Crist, Ron DeSantis. Brilliant. That's the only answer that matters. And I'm happy we saw Ron DeSantis do this, and I'm happy we saw Lee Zeldin yesterday do this. We don't have to fight these battles on the left's grounds and by the left's rules. That is the most asinine thing a conservative and a patriot can do, is fight the battles on the left's terms. No, their terms are ridiculous. Their terms dictate that me at any given point in time can identify as a woman. Their terms dictate that me at any given point in time can get pregnant, that I can ovulate. So these are ridiculous terms. Their terms are that, no, we can't control inflation, but we can control the climate. Those are the left's terms. I don't do that. We stay in reality, where men are men, women are women, women get pregnant, men don't. Where you can't control the climate, where you can control inflation, where I can't have a baby. Right? Pretty simple. But to the theme of yesterday, or the theme of this episode and yesterday's debate, it's election day, not election season. And I know a lot of people out there like to early vote. They want to get it over with. They've made up their mind. That's all good and great. My advice, don't vote until you've seen those candidates debate. Don't do it. Because you may have thought Dr. Oz is a fraud. You may have thought he's just a TV star looking for more clout. And you voted for John Fetterman if you're in Pennsylvania. And if you did that and then watched last night's debate and you have that PTSD, well, you know what? That's your own fault. You shouldn't have done that. It wasn't a smart decision. Next time you'll make a better one. And I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm literally saying this is why early voting should not be taking place before any debates regarding any of the candidates in the race. This on the Political Insider by Rusty Weiss. Fetterman's debate performance proves early voting should be completely banned. Now, maybe is that a little bit too far? Do we think maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days before an election, when the debates are done, then you can early vote? I'm willing to compromise, and that's probably the furthest I'm willing to go. Pennsylvania Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman's painful debate performance is a prime example of the perils of early voting, allowing people to cast ballots before they've even had a chance to watch a candidate argue in favor of his policies and platforms. And that's what's dangerous. Voting isn't just something we all do. Voting isn't just something that we just walk into the polls and take for granted. When I stress it to our people here in New York, when I stress it to our people here on Long Island, when I stress it to our people across the country, that when you vote, you must act as if you are the deciding vote. It's not a joke. That's not something that I say lightly. Ron DeSantis in 2018 won his election by 30,000 votes. If those 30,000 people decided they didn't want to vote, you'd be stuck. Think about this in Florida with Governor Andrew Gillum. Florida would not be the beacon of conservatism that it is. It would not be the beautiful free state that it is. And everything in this country would look completely different because there are governors across this country, whether it's Governor Abbott, whether it's Governor Nome, whether you have other governors across the country that are following Ron DeSantis' lead. If there was no Ron DeSantis, if 30,000 people in Florida were discouraged from voting, I don't feel like doing it today, Ron DeSantis wouldn't be a thing. It would be Governor Gillum in Florida. And that would be it. You would have a socialist state in Florida right now if 30,000 people got that mentality of, well, I'm not the deciding vote. You are the deciding vote. You don't know that you're not the deciding vote. So everybody who's out there has to vote. Period, full stop. But you must vote responsibly. You must know who you're voting for and why. If I go up to somebody in this state, in New York, and I say, hey, why are you voting for Kathy Hochul? Well, because Lee Zeldin's an extremist. No. Why are you voting for Kathy Hochul? Number one, Lee Zeldin isn't an extremist. Number two, you didn't tell me why you were voting for Kathy Hochul. You told me why you were not voting for Lee Zeldin. In Pennsylvania, it's a little different. There's going to be a lot of people who vote for Dr. Oz because they don't want to vote for John Fetterman because it's dangerous to put somebody like that who can't debate in the Senate, which is a body of Congress, one of the houses of Congress, of the legislative branch, that is focused and revolves around debates on the floor of the Senate. There's no closed captioning on the Senate floor. There's no Dasha Burns who's going to cut him some slack, and she deserves an apology. She deserves it. The NBC reporter who said, there's a problem here. Oh, no. The Greta Thunberg, how dare you? How dare you demean a man who's suffering mental... The doctors said he's making incredible progress. The doctors. Yeah, I know, because we're supposed to trust the doctors. Let me ask you this question. You trust the doctors. Do you still trust the doctors after they got just about everything about COVID wrong? Let me ask you this question. Do you trust Fetterman's doctors, one of whom is a donor to his campaign? Oh, yeah, he's going to be just fine. Did that look like anybody who's going to be just fine on that television last night? You just... Liberal, and this is streaming on my Facebook, and there are tons of liberals out there who don't like me. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. There's more people who do like me, which is nice, but there are lots of people out there who are looking at me. So here he goes. He's going off again. Fine. Okay. Maybe Newsday will write a piece on me again about, he's demeaning a man with a stroke. John Fetterman, last night, you have his doctors going, oh, yeah, he's going to be okay. He'll be able to handle the task of the Senate. Did I not see this guy last night? Did we not see what he said? His fracking answer. He said, I do support fracking, and I don't. I don't. I support fracking, and I stand. And I do support fracking. That's arguably worse than anything Sleepy Joe Biden has said over the course of his entire presidency, including telling everybody he's Puerto Rican. I do support fracking, and I don't. I don't. I support fracking, and I stand, and I do support fracking. Meanwhile, in his entire, and maybe he forgot it because of the stroke and memory. Meanwhile, in his past, he has stood against fracking because if you safely extract natural gas from shale underground, the glaciers are going to melt, polar bears are going to die, cow farts are going to become too intense, and the United States of America and the world as a whole is going to end. Oh, and your sink is going to go on fire. Remember that? Your tap water could go on fire if we frack. Wrong. Wrong. Okay? Wrong. It's not true. Just like everything else they say is not true. So you look at John Fetterman, you look at his performance last night, and I said it, and I was being funny, and I hope it's just a lipoma and it's not cancer, and I would imagine if it was cancer, we'd know. Because cancer is one thing we don't joke about. I think John Fetterman would have been better off letting the lump on his neck answer the questions than trying to do it himself. That was a painful thing to watch last night. And to his wife, Giselle, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You are a disgrace for putting him through that. That's embarrassing. He can't do the job. He can't even lie about his ability to do the job anymore like he used to do. He can't even appear competent. appearing competent, appearing functional is too hard a task for John Fetterman, let alone being competent and being functional. And yet this debate took place after early voting had already started in the state of Pennsylvania. You want to talk about a threat to democracy. Don't tell me anything, no crazy nonsense about January 6th. Don't tell me any crazy nonsense about denying the results of an election, which Democrats have done since 2000. You want to talk about a threat to democracy? Putting up a candidate and doubling down support behind a candidate who is not a functional person right now because of a medical complication. Putting forth that candidate, doubling down, getting behind that candidate, that is a threat to democracy. That is a threat to the republic. Could you imagine this man having a say on some of the laws that you're going to have to live under? Passing budgets? Sending legislation to the president's desk? Determining the balance of power in the higher chamber of Congress? John Fetterman? It's unreal, and this is why early voting is a disaster. I'm going to go back to this article by Rusty Weiss here on the Political Insider. Fetterman's performance was a debacle by any measuring stick, including by some very prominent left-wing pundits. There's no running away from it, folks. It was eye-opening. It was probably one of the worst performances that I have ever seen. And I'm a Jet fan. I know bad performances when I see one. What is even more devastating is that several 100,000 voters, several 100,000 voters were robbed of the opportunity to see that the Democrat candidate is clearly incapable of performing the duties required in holding a Senate seat prior to voting. Remember, Ron DeSantis won his election in Florida by 30,000 votes. Hundreds of thousands of voters in Pennsylvania have already voted before that mess last night. If that is not a case to completely change how early voting is conducted, I don't know what is. Now, I may be looking at this Zeldin-Hochul debate as a partisan, as a biased person, someone who knows Zeldin. I've been around him for a while. I know what kind of person he is. I know what kind of father he is. I know what kind of lawyer and politician and representative he is. And I know what that Hochul does not care. And she didn't even seem like she wanted to win last night. She doesn't even look like she wants to win this job. Or it looks like Lee Zeldin passionately wants to win this race. It looks like she's just going through the motions because she thinks she's going to skate in. And if she does, let me be the first to tell you, the mass exodus from the state of New York is going to look, what we've seen, while that's been big, we lead the country in population loss, it's going to look like nothing compared to what happens on November 9th in this state if she does win. I'm telling you right now, I've heard from so many people it's happening. Early voting has already taken place. Actually, it is not taking place in New York yet, but absentee ballots are. In some counties, I believe early voting has taken place in New York. Not hundreds of thousands of votes, though, from what I understand. Fetterman's opponent, Republican candidate Mehmet Oz, challenged him to a series of 5 debates before the late October one-off was agreed to. It immediately became clear why the Fetterman campaign wanted to hide their candidate as long as possible. There have got to be voters, as this article says, in Pennsylvania that are having a serious case of buyer's remorse right now. I'm going to check in on the chat and see what everybody's up to across all the platforms. So here we are on Rumble. We do love you out there on the Cool Kids table. We got you over there on Facebook. Facebook's having a good time over there. I see you over there on YouTube. You all are doing well. Twitter, I can't see the comments right now. And Getter is absolutely exploding right now. Absolutely exploding. All the wonderful Patriots and deplorables that are there across here. As Cordie Williams will be back next week. He's handling something right now tonight, but we will be back next week, same time, same place, as we move on tonight. Did you know about the Marco Rubio canvasser who was brutally beaten here in Florida? There in Florida. I'm not in Florida right now. A second suspect has been arrested for an alleged assault on a canvasser for Senator Marco Rubio that took place on Sunday night. According to an arrest affidavit obtained by Fox News Digital, Jonathan Alexander Casanova joined Javier Lopez in attacking the canvasser. The document also noted that the canvasser told police that Casanova told him he could not pass through the area because he was a Republican. The party of tolerance, ladies and gentlemen, strikes again. Do not let these idiots on the left, these radicals on the left, these people who want to accuse you of being a homophobe or an Islamophobe or an anti-Semite or a Nazi or a fascist or somebody who wants to overthrow the democracy. Don't let them accuse you of any of those things, and don't you dare let them call you intolerant or exclusive. Because this is another example. By the way, Darrell Brooks, the Waukesha Christmas parade killer, was found guilty on all counts today in Wisconsin. Another extremist. We don't hear enough about it because, let's just say, the minority group he belongs to doesn't fit the narrative for the mainstream media to believe it's a good story. Yeah. But don't let these people, Kayler Ellingson, North Dakota, 18 years old, killed by a drunk driver behind the wheel of a car. I haven't heard a word about it. Why was he killed? Because the guy who got behind the wheel of a car who was drunk believed that Kayler Ellingson belonged to a Republican extremist group. You know, I wonder where he got that idea. He couldn't have got it from, let's say, this guy. Oh, no. No, he couldn't have got it from Joe Biden. No way. Remember when he came up there looking like you-know-who? Uncle A from Germany, you know, remember this? I wonder where that guy got the idea from, to run over Kayler Ellingson because he was an extremist. Choose your words carefully, especially when you're the president of the United States. You know, they said all this about Trump, mean tweets. This right here was worse than any tweet Donald Trump could have ever put out. And as a matter of fact, it resulted in the death of a young man. So Marco Rubio was, not Marco Rubio, his canvasser was beaten badly in an area, Hialeah, Florida, because he was a Republican. The party of tolerance. The party of love. The party of kindness. The party of acceptance. The party of everybody needs to feel safe in their own skin. The party of everybody needs to feel welcome. The party of safe spaces. It's a safe space unless you're wearing a Governor Ron DeSantis hat and a Marco Rubio shirt. Then it's not a safe space. Then you're not allowed in the neighborhood and you get beat the crap out of. You have to get facial reconstructive surgery. You're bleeding out of every orifice on your face. No. If you're a Republican, no, it doesn't matter. We don't accept you. We don't want you to feel safe. We don't want you to do your job. We don't want you to come out here into our neighborhoods and terrorize the people by spreading the good word for your candidate. Now, you want to talk about election rigging? By not allowing people like that to go out and canvass safely, you are election rigging. Quote, after tirelessly working to bring justice to the victim, Hialeah police detectives have arrested and charged Jonathan Alexander Casanova for the attack, which occurred on Sunday, October 23rd, 2022, Sergeant Jose Torres said in a statement to Fox News Digital. Look at this guy. The arrest affidavit said the victim, who has since been identified by local media as Chris Monzon, was walking in the neighborhood. Was walking in the neighborhood handing out flyers for Rubio and Governor Ron DeSantis when Casanova and Lopez were blocking the sidewalk. Following an argument, the affidavit says Lopez, quote, rushed the victim and threw him on the ground. And then Casanova, quote, began to kick the victim on the head as he was on the ground. What a brave guy. Kicking the guy while he was already thrown to the floor. What a real brave, tough guy this Casanova is. What a real nice, real accepting, loving, good, nice. Where are the Demings? Val Demings, I'll give her credit, came out and, as a former law enforcement officer, she came out and denounced this attack. Where are the rest of them? Where's AOC? Where's Ilhan Omar? Where's the squad? Where is Stacey Abrams? If this happened to one of her staffers, one of her canvassers, damn well we would have been hearing about how in some way, shape, or form this is racist. While Casanova kicked him, Lopez punched Monzon in the head. 2-on-1, real tough. You think they'd be doing that if they thought they were going to win? I don't think so. The affidavit says a witness then pulled Casanova off of Monzon, and then Casanova released 2 German shepherds from his car and walked with them over to Monzon, who was on the ground, and began to give commands to the dogs to attack and bite him. Party of love. Party of tolerance. How nice. It's a beautiful thing that's happening down there in Hialeah, Florida. The police document says neighbors eventually separated everyone involved, but Casanova fled before officers arrived at the scene. The affidavit says that Lopez identified Casanova to police and that Monzon later identified Casanova by a photo lineup. Monzon also provided a sworn statement on video, which is when he said Casanova told him he could not pass because he is a Republican and threatened to have his dogs attack him. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put a picture up of what this attack did to Monzon. It is a very scary picture, and if you don't like graphic content, please look away in 3 seconds. There you have it. That's what happened to Marco Rubio's staffer. And so now I ask, now, do we all understand why the Second Amendment is so important? Think if this man was carrying a gun, any of that stuff happens? I think nobody gets hurt in that situation. I think he gets blocked. They start arguing him. They start to get physical. He pulls his gun. He says, that's enough. And if you know anything about respecting a firearm, every firearm that you see, you treat as loaded. This doesn't happen to Monzon if he's exercising his Second Amendment right to self-defense. Monzon said in the statement that he tried to walk around Casanova and Lopez, but that Casanova then told him he was not allowed to walk around the neighborhood and threatened to shoot him if he continued. Monzon then said he was on public property. According to the affidavit, surveillance video corroborated Monzon's sequence of events. It also noted that Monzon suffered a fractured orbital bone, nasal and sinus fractures, and other underlying injuries. Torres said that intelligence gathered by detectives led to police locating Casanova at a park in Miami Beach, where they apprehended him. The incident drew national attention after Rubio tweeted about it on Monday. The GOP senator said at the time that the canvasser was attacked by 4 animals. It could have been the 2 men and the 2 dogs. It is unclear if this meant that more suspects were believed to be involved or if this referred to Lopez, Casanova, and the 2 dogs. When asked by Fox News if police are looking into any more suspects, Torres said that their investigation continues. Detectives are pending other witness statements and video. We want to make sure that every person involved in the beating is brought to justice. The party of love, the party of tolerance. You know, these people are sick. And I want to caution you against something. I want to make sure everybody here is aware. While this did happen to this young man, 27 years old, in a neighborhood in Florida, I do not want this to discourage anybody from doing what must be done to win elections in their districts across the country. Doing so would give the left exactly what they want. Instead, what we do, we don't walk alone. And we make sure that we have some sort of means of defending yourself, whether it be a gun or just some sort of, if it's a pepper spray, if it's mace, if it's something, to make sure that if someone does approach you while you are canvassing, knocking doors, doing lit drops in your area, to make sure that if that does happen, that this is not how you wind up as well. But I don't want this to discourage people from being active and owning their processes in their respective districts. If you're in Ohio's 9th District, you need to still get out and walk for J.R. Majewski. If you're here on Long Island, you need to still get out and walk every Saturday with us from 10 a.m. to 12 noon for Lee Zeldin, for Joe Pinion, for Amir Sultan, for Chris Sperber, for the Republican ticket here in the state of New York. Michael Henry as well. There appears to be a lot of noise outside this window. No, it's okay. It's okay. They're probably upset that they voted for John Fetterman, too. It's getting intense out there, though. We're going to get to the final story of the night. How do you successfully lie to 300 million people? The mainstream media playbook. This is an article from townhall.com. John Nance, October 25th, 2022. As the midterms are only 13 days away, folks, really 12 days, because today is just about over, Joe Biden is a pathological liar. That's easy to prove. Just about every public statement that he's made is an outright lie. His claims about his law school career and standing were false. He claimed to have marched during the civil rights movement, which is a lie. He lied repeatedly and boldly about Hunter's corrupt business dealings and his intimate relationship to them. He spent 47 years stacking lie upon lie, building a colossal monument to his depravity and to the public's gullibility. Biden lied about COVID, the efficacy of the vaccine, the necessity of lockdowns, and the utility of masks. He's lying about the border crisis and how it will deform our republic. He and his administration are lying about inflation. A trip to the grocery store or gas pump will prove that lie. He and his stooges continue to lie about January 6th, in particular about 3 police officers who were killed that day, a tragedy that never actually occurred. Recently, he lied about how his son Bo died, claiming he was killed in Iraq, when in fact he died of brain cancer at Walter Reed National Military Center in 2009. You may be tempted to give Biden a pass on that bizarre statement, but Biden is speaking out of the dark and twisted lair that is his soul. A lifetime of lies is now manifesting itself through his dementia. Biden lies as a matter of course. We all know it, and far too many of us ignore it. One of my favorite lines from New York Times bestselling author Andy Andrews is, have you ever noticed when you lie to them, politicians, it's a crime? But when they lie to us, it's just politics? You can find this profound statement in Andy's book, How Do You Kill 11 Million People? It's an obvious statement, but have you really thought about it? Isn't it patently totalitarian to prosecute citizens for an immoral act politicians commit, practically, as often as they breathe? Why don't we modify Andy's question and ask, how do you successfully lie to 300 million people? The consequence. Now, this is very easy to answer. In my opinion, it's using the mainstream media as an effective form of gaslighting. You know the 4 steps of gaslighting is lie, right? Lie often, lie confidently, and isolate people from the truth. Thank you, Dan Bongino. In order to gaslight people, you must lie. Is it raining outside? If it's raining outside and you don't want people to know, you do this. You lie. It's not raining. You lie often, which means you continue to repeat the lie that it isn't raining. You lie confidently and come up with a reason why, no, what you see out the window is not real. It's not raining. And then you isolate people from the truth the way they did it with COVID. You're not allowed to leave your house and find out if it's raining. You're not allowed to look out the window because it's unsafe. It's raining so hard you might get struck by lightning. Stay away from those windows and put those blinds over. Don't look out there. You can get really, really hurt. You scare people. You isolate them from the truth. That's how you lie to 300 million people. The consequence of allowing our politicians, back to the article, to lie to us is dire. Most of the time, it seems innocuous. We sometimes tell what we like to call little white lies in an effort to spare someone's feelings or just to get along, but lies, even the small ones, corrupt. It's like salt water dripping on a bar of iron, causing oxidation. a loosening of molecular bonds, a process invisible to the eye but insidious, relentless, and resulting in the destruction of what was once whole and strong. Lies act as a corrosive to societal relationships, from the most basic between a husband and wife to the civil society at large. Should you choose to consult God on the matter, he takes a rather dim view of the lie. Quote, "These 6 things doth the Lord hate: a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. For a generation indoctrinated to believe that God is just love, it may be jarring to learn that he does hate. God is love, but he is also holy. In fact, one cannot exist without the other, and truth is the soil from which love draws its vitality. It rejoiceth not in iniquity, but it rejoiceth in the truth." This has been obvious to the best minds as well. Quote, "The truth of things is the chief nutriment of superior intellects." That comes from the great Leonardo da Vinci. And as a famous and successful liar once said, quote, "How fortunate for leaders that men do not think. Make the lie big, make it simple. Keep saying it, and eventually people will believe it. It's as easy as calling a piece of legislation the Inflation Reduction Act. This piece of legislation demonstrably will not positively impact inflation as promised. It'll make it worse." So here you go. And I want to tell you that I have not read this article before doing so right now tonight, because I like to predict what the article is going to say. You remember when I said, how do you lie? How do you gaslight? You lie often, you lie confidently, and you isolate people from the truth? Well, we finally get to where they answer the question, how do you successfully lie to 300 million people? You make the lie big, make it simple, and you keep repeating it. So how does it affect you if your representatives are dishonest? Practically speaking, it results in less money in your wallet when lawmakers create an immoral tax code beyond the comprehension of any individual. It also creates an environment which results in the adoption of an unethical money system, the creation of fiat currency easily manipulated and resulting in cycles of inflation, eroding your ability to afford even the essentials. You know, I said this today on LFA. People in upstate New York, because of the weather now, are going to have to make a very crucial decision. They're either going to eat or have heat. They can't afford both, some of these folks up there. They're either going to eat dinner or heat their homes. It's the United States of America. When on earth did we think people were going to, there's always going to be poverty and issues, but on such a large scale. When did we believe in this state, in New York, once great state, the Empire State, when did we believe that people would have to make the decision of whether or not to have dinner or have warmth in their homes in October? Winter hasn't even started yet here. We're just getting to the beginning of when things start to dip below freezing in upstate New York. And that season for them up there, that season, that doesn't end until like early April. You're talking about the next 6 months where things are not going to be good, not going to be easy, where there are going to be tragedies, people freezing to death in their homes. That's how it affects you. That's how it winds up on your doorstep. When you're either going to go cold or go hungry. Or in some scenarios, both. Lying politicians also create suffering, as we all witnessed during the COVID pandemic. Ultimately, allowing our political leaders to lie leads to atrocity. Millions of Jews can attest to the horror of that reality. The corruption in American politics can be addressed and reversed. As part of Andy Andrews' new Life Skills Project, you can participate directly in the solution. This man who wrote this article, get his name one more time, John Nance. It appears John Nance has partnered with Andy Andrews. That's funny. Now, why did his parents do that? Andrew Andrews. I thought I saw an author one time wrote a book. His name was Doug Douglas or something, which is Douglas Douglas. This guy's name is Andrew Andrews. That's bad. Andy Andrews. So this guy, John Nance, who wrote this article, it's a good article. New life skills project. You can participate directly in the solution. He's partnered with Andy in presenting a 3-week interactive Zoom seminar, during which truth is understood, discussed, and practically applied to affect change in our lives, communities, and nation. In the article, you can join and discover what can be done in November and beyond. So go ahead and Google search this. Just Google search Town Hall, How to Lie to 300 million people. Remember, you lie, make it big, make it simple, because you don't want the lie to be too complex for people to understand. There is a level of simplicity that people like. Occam's razor, the simple answer is most usually the right answer. You know, again, we'll take it back to this weather example. I walked outside, I walked back inside, and I got wet when I was outside. Well, why did that happen? Well, the left will come out and say a Republican threw water on you because he hates you. I would say, well, yeah, that could get me wet, I guess, but I'm more likely to believe that it's raining outside. And they'll come up with all sorts. So you got to make it simple, but it's got to be big. It's got to be big. It's got to be scary. It's got to be heavy. You got to be afraid. You got to be stressed out about it. This way you're more likely to just submit to believing the lie so that you don't ask questions, so that you don't fight through each level of resistance, each layer of the onion that's isolating you from the truth. Look no further than the mainstream media. They are the enemy of the people. They will not cover the story about Marco Rubio's canvasser. They barely talked about Kayla Ellingson. They're not going to talk about Brooks. They called the Antifa riots that took local businesses in those respective towns, burned them to the ground. Some never opened again. They told you that they were fiery, but mostly peaceful. They isolate everybody from the truth. They have a large reach. But the good news is, because of platforms like Getter, Rumble, Truth Social, Gab, and some of your other alternative platforms, Parler, Frank Speech, because of platforms and places like that, specifically for me, Rumble and Getter, because of that, we can be the media now. We are the media now. And for those who are out there, who are isolated from the truth, we can help them peel those layers of that onion as well. Expose them to the truth. Wake them up. Welcome them into the big tent. It worked for Tulsi Gabbard. It worked for Bob Holden here, the Democrat Party in New York City Council, who's voting for Lee Zeldin and leading a coalition of Democrats for Zeldin. It is possible, and with everybody's help, we can do it. And on that note, it's 10 o'clock. Dr. Cordie Williams will be back next week with me. I had to rock solo tonight. He was a little tied up today, but everything's good. We'll be back next week again with another episode of The Unalienable Right, the final episode before the 2022 midterm elections. Next week, November 2nd. Could you believe November is next week already? That is crazy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to this Rumble channel. We're going to be using this to grow. Obviously, we have the Loud Majority channel. I just don't want to clutter that page, rumble.com/loudmajorityus. You can also find the Loud Majority show every Monday through Friday on LFA TV from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. On the Loud Majority channel, we have rumble.com/loudmajorityus every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, a more local show. We have a lot of fun. We sometimes talk about national issues there, too. We Will Not Comply is the name of that, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back here next week, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, November 2nd. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, we say it all the time on all the other shows. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we appreciate all of the support that you have shown us thus far. We'll be back next week here on all of those platforms, including Getter, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube for the Unalienable Right. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you to stop complying with any unlawful mandates and madness, and as always, always, always stay loud.